the recording because she's got.
I have to go unlock the front door.
Oh, it was locked, I think, went down here.
Yeah, so I have to manually unlock it.
Oh, okay.
We got,
She's unlocking.
yeah, we got 2 more minutes. But yeah, so that was the ROI. It was like
That was pretty cool.
it was like 3 to 5 years so that they can basically use the sewer gas to
That's great.
to run the machine versus buying gas from PSA.
Good plan.
Yeah.
That one to me makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes things make sense. That one happened to make sense.
Well, plus the bigger capacity dryer,
Yeah.
was gonna save them a ton of money too, so that was pretty cool.
When they do things like that, we have to authorize them doing that, or they just do it and inform us.
Technically, no.
They just
But-
spend our money.
Yeah. We
And
try
if it increases rates, like we're just locked in, we have no control over it.
pretty much. That's why we try to get the jacks, so at least the council's
At
aware.
least we know what's happening.
Yeah, you could be kind of the process, but I think-
Saying it, but we'll
but
keep you in the loop at least.
at the end of the day, I think if we all said no, I don't know if we have much leverage because they literally just send us a bill
Yeah.
and we get a bill and says how much you
Okay, it
owe us.
looks
this
like it
month.
is 5 PM.
All right.
We will start our Community Development Committee meeting for January 21st, 2025. It is 5 PM. We have all of our council members present. We have Council Member McClymont and Council Member Rock and myself, Council Member Fullerton. We have Jason here. And so we are ready to begin. We need to do the approval of our minutes from December 3rd of 2024.
I haven't seen, did they update the minute? You know?
Did you, what
You
were
did,
the,
thank
what
you.
were the reasons that I gave? I just can't remember.
Oh, right, exactly. I was having trouble remembering too. I was trying to type them out and I typed them out and I go, no, I don't think that was it. And I typed something else out and I'm like, I don't think that was it. I'm like, maybe they can.
I have them right here. The reason was you wanted, to be on record, the reason why, if, it was not approved
Uh-huh,
for the, updates for the lift station 17.
right. Yeah,
And the reason would be if, the sewer system would fail, we would be in trouble because the sewer would overflow into Bennell Creek and we would not be able to get our sewer down to Sumner. There would also be problems with the environment and EPA.
great, that's perfect. I was concerned because I usually ask that question to get the comment into the public record. and it
Right.
was-
Oh, the bubbler.
Yeah, the bubble.
Yeah, if it fails, then it goes
Yeah.
on, we don't want it in the creek.
Perfect. So we are approving the minutes for December 3rd.
Yes.
Great.
With Debbie's correction.
Yes, with the correction. Okay. Department report presentation, none. So we have discussion action items is AB 25-03 ordinance D 25-03 garbage and solid waste enforcement. Jason Sullivan, Public Service Director, congratulations,
Thank you.
is going to give us the updates.
It's your first meeting.
This is
right,
my-
as the public-
Yes, this is my first meeting as the official director. Uh-oh.
Changes everything.
Changes everything.
Yeah, can we postpone everything? I gotta go warm up.
So I kind of wanted to give some background on this so the council understands why we're proposing the change. So, since 1973, the city has mandated that people have trash service, within the city of Bonney Lake. Since 1973, that violation has been a civil infraction issued by the code enforcement officers. A civil infraction is like a ticket that they write, like a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. However, one, there's a couple problems with that too. Code enforcement officers under new state legislation can't write tickets. It would have to be someone from the police department. So one, you would be pulling the police department away from doing things to go out and write people tickets for not having trash service. Second of all, a class 1 civil infraction is a $250 infraction. So what we're proposing is to amend chapter 804, the enforcement provision, to remove the class 1 civil infraction provision, and instead have it been enforced through the city's code enforcement process, which is prioritized on achieving voluntary compliance before issuing fines. So under the code enforcement process, instead of writing a fine day one like you would with a civil infraction, we write a letter saying, hey, you need to get trash service. And that's the only thing, which is typically not. It would be typically a courtesy letter. Then there would be a notice of violation saying you're in violation of the code for not having trash service before we even get to what we call civil penalties. As part of the amendment, we did amend our civil penalties section in this, as it applies to this chapter, so that one, it starts out a lot lower. It starts out at $100 for the first violation within 12 months. The second violation would be $200 and within 12 months. And the third and subsequent violations would be $250. So still maxing out at what a max of a civil infraction would be, but you would have three. I mean, you would have what, by the time you got your first civil penalty, you would have been your third time through the system, right? You didn't get it, you wouldn't, and it resets every 12 months. So trying to do the carrot and stick approach.
Does it compound, like if they had $250 accrued from 2024 and then 2025 comes up and they continue to not pay it?
And then it could be another, if it's a 12,
Clean it up.
yeah, then it would be that 12-month period. So if it was,
Okay.
so in January 2025, for lack of a better word, they got $100 fine and they didn't have anything else for a 12-month period, rolling 12-month period, then it would reset. But if they had multiples, then yeah, it would be 100 this violation, 200, then 250 in each subsequent violation. Currently, it's just $250 every violation. So it does try to provide, I guess, progressive code enforcement versus just, it's a fine $250 every time.
What if they don't pay the fine?
There's a couple options that we do have. One, we can record a lien against the property for those civil penalties. As I was telling Councilmember Fullerton and Councilmember Rock, a lot of the properties that we're dealing with that have this issue are also in code enforcement for a number of other reasons. And a lot of those issues are related to trash.
They're
Yeah.
more free spirited.
Yeah, and so by keeping people on trash service and ensuring that people have trash service, even if it's a small can, the likelihood that you get those big, I'm gonna take my trash to the dump once a month and I pile it up behind my garage. Oh wait, I can't do it this month, and then it's 2 months of trash piled up. Is what we're trying to prevent.
How many of those people?
I don't have, like I said, we don't run a list of, they're around. I don't run a list of, oh, these are all the people who don't have trash service. It's something we check when people are in for code enforcement for trash
That's
service.
the other thing, it's not like they have a roster and it's flagging the houses that don't have it. So I think it's like, little old retired guy that lives by himself and has barely any trash and keeps his house meticulous, but it's like, I have nothing better to do, so I'm gonna take my trash to the dump every week and visit with the lady that works there. Fine, nobody's gonna call him in,
Right.
It's more for the people whose neighbors are like, I have rat problems because trash everywhere.
So Murray's isn't gonna give us a list of names to say, we want you to go do code enforcement on these.
We could, they would if we wanted to, but that's not how we've been doing it.
Good, okay, that was my concern.
Yeah, we haven't been,
It is part of the contract with Murray's, though, that we are required to mandate trash service in order, otherwise we would be in violation of the contract with Murray's.
Right,
and the reason Murray's does that is when you mandate trash service, their rates can be lower because they know.
Oh, they're getting X amount of homes, okay.
And so if you don't have mandatory trash service, then they want to, they would want to renegotiate the rates to raise the trash rates. Because there are people who would make it probably a different choice if it wasn't mandated.
yes, so
So my.
we don't have an idea of how many people,
Oh, I could probably get it. I could probably find out.
don't ask Murray.
Well, that's what I'd have to ask.
It was Josh,
That's
right?
what
Josh was the previous.
Yeah. We'd
Yeah,
have to,
Josh and I have a lot of talks.
we would have to call them and ask them of all of our addresses, how many don't have trash service.
Yeah.
We currently don't have the capacity to proactively go after a main list. It's something that we check when a property is in code enforcement.
Well, the honest truth is they put a lien against the house, but unless they're selling the house, like.
No, that's a lot of things with code enforcement as we get to a point where, I'll be honest, we have tried everything we can to get them to comply. That we just simply record it as a code violation on title, and when that property sells, it usually gets resolved real fast. But the title
But they
insurance,
just won't resolve it until that point.
because the title insurance wants that off.
Right, we won't, the city doesn't.
What?
Yeah, we don't foreclose on any of
Oh,
it.
no, we don't foreclose. It's more of a,
It's
it's
An
a,
H-
balance sheet.
my HOA did.
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is more of a,
The foreclose when somebody's.
Yeah, twice, they've tried twice, right?
this is more of a, this is more just notice on title that there's a open violation or open civil penalty that's still due.
Mhm.
And what happens is when they decide to sell their property for whatever
Right,
reason,
yeah, right.
the title companies call us and say, hey, can you get this off our title? Because we want to get field title insurance. And we're like, yes, resolve the code violation, and we will gladly remove it from title. They usually get resolved pretty quickly.
And the government's pretty high up on the list of.
Yes.
Yes, if it was foreclosed, yeah.
What is the time that's typically given between a warning and their first citation?
Usually 30 days. But then they also have the option to come in and enter a work plan and say, I need additional time. And I think, Leslie, do you remember what a micro can is? It's in like 1250.
Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't look it up, but it's not
This
very.
big.
No, the little,
Oh,
so
not
if you- so-
micro can.
yeah, so if you-
I thought meant like a dumpster for.
yeah, no, so if you don't have a lot of trash, right, it really behooves you to have trash service, because I think a micro can is $12.50 or something like that, $15. And if you were to take a bag of trash up every week, you're gonna pay $45 at the dump every time you go, because it's a minimum 1 ton charge. So really, unless you're, and that's the problem with not having trash service, to make it economically viable, you're gonna wait till you wanna have a ton of trash.
Yeah.
Cause if you're less than a ton, it's $45, which is more than our trash service for like a micro can.
Yeah.
A micro can.
I know, but it's Bonney Lake. I just laughed, one of my first council meetings back in like 2000, I attended, I want to say Dan was on. But there was 3 people there who refused to get trash service, right? And they just refused, and I was like, my brain just exploded. I'm like, what's going on? We gotta have trash service, what's going on? They're like, no, not. And they had a bunch of code enforcement against them as well for all the cars in the front yard.
All the trash.
And all the stuff, right? They had a ton of stuff, and they were just like, look, we've lived here forever and we're out in the middle of nowhere and nobody's biased. Why are we getting picked on? Right? And I just, for me, I was like, Bonney Lake.
Like I said,
Bonnie
That's
Lake's
before-
not out in the middle of nowhere anymore.
Well, I know, that was before, there literally was no Sky Island, there was
Yeah.
no.
and if they've lived in, and if they've lived in.
Actually, I think they were.
They had that in place in 73.
That's-
That is bananas.
That's what I'm saying. So unless they moved to the city prior to 1973,
Right,
they've always required to have trash service since
And they
1973.
were only flagged because they have an excessive amount of trash.
Yes.
I see
No,
what you're
cars.
saying about
Cars.
cars.
right. It was, well, yeah. So I just telling you, it was like my first or second council meeting I attended when they used to be down by, the senior center. It was interesting. I just remember it and going, I guess we did choose to move to nowhere. Right? Because that's how it felt, right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
commuting from Seattle. I'm like, it's a long drive. I'm like, why am I driving in the middle of nowhere every day?
We are on the edge. I will agree. We are on the edge.
Oh, and
of-
back then it was really edge, because I believe they were on Angeline over there by where all of the housing developments were,
Yeah.
right?
And
And they
there's
were,
nothing over there.
there was nothing.
But I would say nowadays.
Well, so my
Well, no,
concern
there was a big pile of cars.
that I was wondering if constitutionally, if you can actually mandate citizens to purchase a service. And so, and then, of course, Jason finally pulls up the RCW, which is RCW 35.21.130, that we can mandate, the trash service. I mean, it makes sense, but I still don't know that
I love it.
you can create a law that requires a citizen to purchase a product. And then that we only have a contract with Murray's. So now you have this guarantee
Monopoly,
for
right.
Murray's that they're gonna get X amount of citizens to purchase their product every month.
Right,
And so they have guaranteed income.
and they have guaranteed
So-
rate increases too on that contract.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
and it's similar, trash is really a utility, so it's the same with water. You can only buy Bonney Lake water, you can only buy Bonney Lake sewer, you can only buy electricity from PSC. And in larger cities, like I was, the councilman, Chair Fullerton is, if you went to New York City is the trash collector, right?
Yeah.
It's, it's just we.
Throw it to the side.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, we are just not a big enough municipality to have our own trash collection service, so I don't wanna be in the trash hauling business. We mandate that you have to have trash service in the code, and then we contract with Murray's to provide that service on our behalf, because we're not large enough to have our own
Service.
trash hauling service. We don't have the contracts in place, we don't have dump trucks, we don't have. And because they are doing it on such a large scale, they get they better rate, because it's also and knowing all of the ins and outs of the trash business, we don't have that.
I do appreciate now that we're, rather than every single time they get caught not having trash service, it's an automatic $250. So
Right.
you have 3 incidents, that's $750, but now it's gonna be,
Plus it turns into a felony, doesn't it, with the third infraction?
I don't know, I didn't dig into it.
I think the 3 misdemeanors turn into a felony.
that could be possible too, but so now it's basically because we're turning it over to the code enforcement officers. It would be encourage compliance, but it's still mandatory. So it's the 100, 200 and 250.
I think
So-
it's a good sign. We don't
Yeah.
know how many we have.
Yeah.
We're not chasing them down.
We're not chasing them down.
So-
That would be a game changer for me, is if we were like hunting the people that didn't
Yeah.
have service, but if
Yeah.
you're getting called in because your property's a mess.
This is more like I said, the ones that we have and that we're trying to struggle through are, we have received a complaint about trash on the property.
And so yeah. And we're still gonna get those arguments from all those folks, but you know what? I like the fact it's not a civil penalty, it's just a fine.
I mean, it's still a fraction.
Right.
It's just a penalty, it's just a fine.
It's just a fine.
And then we also specifically, because I also think it's crazy to charge people criminally for not having trash. Where it says BLMC 14-130-03D shall not apply to violations, well, it should be chapter 1804 of 804. If you go down to you're down too far, go back up.
Under the,
On page 10 of the packet. One more page up. See where it says 14?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is the provision in the code enforcement code that says code enforcement violations can be charged as a misdemeanor. So we've even specifically said it will never be a misdemeanor. So it would only be the fines.
Great. Okay, I like that.
Trying to make it as,
Yeah,
allow the code enforcement officers to deal with the issue as they come up in a consistent manner and in a systematic way, but also not make it just where we're writing you a ticket every time.
so do we want to put this on, full consent? Or do we want to put this on discussion? I think.
I feel like it's kind of the one discussion, considering how much discussion we had now.
Yeah, I think it's,
I don't know.
what
I
are you
mean, I don't
thinking?
know.
I think, since it's actually lessening the fines and it's, taking away from it being a misdemeanor and it's becoming a,
I
I think
think,
it's just like, it's like an update. to the
I actually
policy.
think, I would like it on full discussion so we can kind of bring that to the fact that we're trying to make the city a little friendlier.
Yeah.
Right, a little more reasonable when it comes to, it's
Okay.
important to have trash and it's important to do these things, but
Okay.
that makes it better. It's not a class 1 civil infraction. I don't know, that's
Yeah,
what. that's kind of-
I've got two.
Keep that in mind
So-
when you present it.
I know in, what do you call it?
I'll have Kelly speak to it.
You know-
Councilmember McClymans can speak to it, or you can tell me what to say.
You have to talk to,
You know, yeah.
Council Member Moore and, I keep wanting to say Eatonville, but it's not Eatonville. What is it?
Roy,
No, it's just on
Sumner,
under Eatonville. I get those two
Edgewood?
confused all the time.
Bona,
No.
Wilford.
What's his name?
I'm like-
Chris Moore. He's
You
the
go
council
down every
member.
small city on the planet that I can think
Down
of.
the hill.
What's his
Ording.
name? Ording.
Ording.
Yeah, Chris Moore and Ording. This is his pet peeve, right? He and I have exchanged countless emails on this.
Garbage?
Yeah, garbage, yeah. Yeah, he feels like this is a monopoly in, organized crime, and I don't feel like it's organized crime. I don't think it's quite a monopoly. I mean, we could just say no to the next contract if we wanted to, right? But
It's gonna make it more expensive for everybody though, it sounds like, when it's a gamble. So it's like,
And our current contract must
Unless you
win.
pit the 2 or 3 garbage
I don't know
companies
that they
against
care
each
though.
other.
And it makes complete sense for the garbage company because they're driving past every single house anyway.
Yeah,
And I just know when I did this in Des Moines 15 years ago, we had the new garbage contract. There was a lot of discussion about whether we would make it mandatory or not, and our rate structure very different. Our rate structures were very different based on whether we mandated garbage service or if we didn't mandate garbage service.
I would like to hire them to do our meter reading, right? Because they drive by everybody's house all the time, right? We give them the meter reader and they can just, whoop.
Well, and our current contract with Marie's goes through 2031.
You got a while.
Yeah, so 6 years from now, that will be a topic of discussion.
do other garbage companies do that, read meters?
No, that's my
Oh, okay.
that's my efficiency.
Okay. Yeah,
That's my
that makes
efficiency
sense,
suggestion.
because then we don't have to use city workers for it. All right, so we've got that on, full council
Yep.
issues, so we will be moving on to, AB 25-04. Resolution R 25-04. This is a resolution of the City Council of Bonney Lake, Pierce County, Washington, adopting the 2025-26 Planning Commission Work Plan.
So, since 2010, the council adopted resolution 2089, we have developed a, biennial work plan, that's required to be adopted in the first 2 years of the new biennium. The work plan just sets out and lays out the items that the planning commission will be working on. Typically, we do this in a joint session, but because we want to reserve the joint session to do a joint public hearing on the comprehensive plan, we decided that we would just bring forward this separately. It's not required to be part of the joint meeting. That's just trying to find topics for the joint meeting. This is the one thing we always did. This year, because we were going to be doing the comp plan, we want to do the joint meeting with the comp plan. So the task this year to finish up the comprehensive plan update, we were supposed to be done by December 31st, but for a whole host of staff and consultant issues and things that happened, we are not done. We have been in communication with both the Department of Commerce and PSRC, so we're fine. Staff is working to get that update completed and bring back the last 3 elements. There's a transportation element, the capital facilities element, and then our implementation element, which will identify the things we're going to do to actually implement the comp plan. And that will give staff policy guidance of how council wants to actually do these things and the timing. There are a number of statutory updates that we're required to complete by June of this year, and they're all kind of listed there. Some of these are less, I think, concerning to council, like 5290 is all about improving our permitting process and streamlining it and reducing permit review times. This lot subdivision is just about how we do subdivisions for townhomes, but it's only where townhomes are allowed. I think the big one that's going to cause, I think, the most
Brackets?
concern is engrossed House Bill 1337, which requires us to allow 2 ADUs on every lot. Whether they can fit, there's other, critical areas, setbacks, lot coverage, those things still apply. But whether we have to allow for 2 ADUs on every lot, and we also can't prohibit that they can't be condominiumized, so you could sell the house and the ADUs separately to different people, which is gonna change, I think, some of our regulatory structure of how we do things.
Oh, they can be sold to separate people?
Under this house, but we have to allow that, yes.
So then it's not an ADU anymore. So then does each owner have to put another ADU on?
No, there's some provisions that, condominiumized. So there's still one lot. It's just, you can sell the
Unit
ADU,
A,
unit A to this person, unit B to this person, and the main house to another person.
Okay,
It's where the 3 of them own the property in common, like a condominium,
yeah.
but they own the structure themselves.
Disaster.
So,
Thank you.
Absolute disaster.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that,
yeah, you would know about this, wouldn't you? right?
we have lots of concerns, but this is one where I put down the Kelly McClymon's, Councilmember McClymon's statement.
Yeah,
What if we don't do this?
yeah.
Then our staff will be told to follow the state law because we're preempted by state law. And it says, if you don't adopt your own standards, at least meeting these things by June of this year, then your code is invalid and these are the rules that apply.
And if we agree to do that, what are our
I don't do,
stipulations that because they still have to meet certain requirements, right? So it would have to be a certain size, it would have to have certain setbacks, there would have to be enough parking for the a lot of
I
different.
think parking's the one
What
we
are
can't
all of
require. Parking's the one I think we're off limits from requiring.
Do we,
Even in Tacoma.
Because they want
require
everybody
parking.
I
riding
know,
a
but I think-
bicycle.
I think in the state law, there's some things that are changing, like the minimum, the largest, I think it's the smallest we can allow them to be and the biggest we can allow them to be. We can't require owner occupancy anymore. We have to let them be condominiumized, and I think I'd have to verify, but I think there's even a provision that deals with how we deal parking. But for us, those aren't the things that concern us. Currently, because we treat ADUs as historically mother-in-law type apartments, we don't require separate water meters. We don't require transportation impact fees. We don't require park impact fees, school impact fees. And so, we're also likely going to have to change the code to say, if you do an ADU, you have to do your own water meter. And the reason is because when someone condominiumizes something, we don't review those. Condominiumization is simply a tax issue of describing airspace, and so those are filed only with Pierce County under state law. So we have to assume from our regulatory side that everything will be condominiumized and sold, and you can't have the main house have the meter and this ADU not have the meter, so when we shut off this person, so we're gonna have to fundamentally change how we do
That was
ADUs.
my thing, if they're gonna force us to allow that, how many things can we add on to make it difficult?
Well, right now, we don't charge any STC water connection charge, park impact fee, school impact fee, or transportation impact fee for ADUs. So because they can be condominiumized, we're gonna add that, but we can only do it at 50% the rate,
Why?
because that's what the state law says.
We meddle in all the things.
Yeah, and this is one that I'm just giving you the heads up, and this is literally one that says, if you don't do anything, then your code is invalid and these minimum requirements from the state apply. And so we don't want to be in a situation where we're just following their really basic
we
provisions.
already have a lot of definitions of ADUs, right? And if I remember right, the front door of the house can't face the door of the ADU, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those things we're having to
Take out,
Get
take
rid of.
out.
get rid of it. Right.
Yeah, but we're gonna focus on, the thing that concerns me most as the public services director, while those are all concerning, is really the utility question right now, because if you have a house with 2 ADUs, there's typically only one water meter. And so if someone stops paying the meter, we shut all 3 houses off.
Well, are those
Same with your
3,
sewer connection, all of it, yeah.
are they 3 separate structures then?
They could be.
They don't have to be.
What it is, it could be a house and 2 detached ADUs, so it's 3 separate structures. It could be,
One detached, one attached.
yeah, it could be a house with an internal ADU and then 1 external ADU. It could be a house with 2 internal
Or they're
ADUs.
just breaking it up.
So you take a 4,000 square foot house and break it into, main house and then 2 ADUs.
What they've done with all the historic homes and.
Oh, yeah.
Piece them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to allow it. I don't have like,
We have-
even if the council said, we're not passing one code to do that, state law would still say we'd have to.
And then it would be worse, because now we have to follow the state code instead of what we said.
And they don't have, and since our code says no impact fees, no SDCs, none of this, then you're really making the situation worse. So our provision is, our approach is going to be make sure that at least transportation impact fees, park impact fees, those types of things are addressed. And that each one has their own meter, their own sewer connection.
So how does somebody have their mother-in-law live with them?
They could still do an ADU, but they'd have to follow.
All the fees that go with it.
I don't have a way to determine, because I can't
Who the
say,
tenant is,
yeah.
or when it's sold, who's gonna occupy it after
I
that.
have no control over that anymore.
So, but wait, I just kind of want to understand the reach and the impact here. So you have an older parent that comes move in with you. Does that require an ADU?
No,
Okay,
it's only if you want to give them their own complete independent living space.
and what's that? If I remember right, that's a cooking area and then a bathroom area.
Correct.
Okay.
So you could give them their own, you could give them their own bathroom, their own living room area, even have a refrigerator in it.
Right.
As long as it doesn't have cooking facility, a stove and a kitchen and a sink,
Uh-huh.
a kitchen sink, it's not an ADU. Will we get bootlegged ones? Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this because I have a downstairs kitchen and an upstairs kitchen.
Well, and there's nothing actually in the code that prohibits you from having,
I know, and so we're not gonna wind up. My concern is we're gonna, right, I know there's two other people like me, because I didn't get that idea all by myself, right?
no, there's nothing in our code that says you can't have 2 kitchens.
Okay,
So that's what I'm saying, this, you,
It's more, I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you are building additional structures, obviously it's gonna come up then.
right,
Or if you are trying to sell your house.
Right.
And now you have changed it to 2 condo living spaces and you're selling it to 2 separate people.
sure.
or if you have 2, they're considered independent living facilities. And granted, it's hard to work through because there's nothing in the code that says you can't have 2 kitchens. We have that all over the lake.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. That just makes sense for lake,
Yeah, we have people with daylight basements who
turn them into kitchen.
they wanna be able to have a party area downtown and have a kitchen in that area that is open to the lake. Are there people who are gonna abuse that? Probably.
I was gonna say, even if you put a tenant in there, like, the city's never gonna know.
Sometimes we find out because they complain that someone's renting it as an illegal ADU and then we
Okay.
investigate it and then it
Well,
becomes a problem.
Then it becomes.
Yeah, so there's nothing in the code that says you can't have 2 kitchens. We've looked all over the code. But it does say if you have an accessory dwelling unit, which is a unit that provides complete independent living space, we have to use kitchens and bathrooms as what's considered independent living space.
Everybody's got an ADU now, doesn't have to comply. We're not gonna make them go back and do.
No, if you have an ADU, no, this is,
But everybody going forward, right, when they go and they say, oh, I'm now doing an ADU, they will have to do all that.
when they do the new rules. And I would say anybody who hasn't legitimized their current ADU. So if they did what we call the bootleg ADU, and then someone turns into code enforcement and they have never gone through the process and the code's changed, when the code's changed, they would have to comply with the due process. That's the problem with doing work without permits.
Well, I know there's some houses, even where I'm at, that have like, an apartment downstairs in the basement. But they don't rent it out or anything. They just like, they would let people come and stay there for like,
It really has nothing to do with whether it's rented or not. It's just, is it being used as an independent living facility?
a foreign exchange students stay
I
there,
don't think that counts though.
but they weren't renting it.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe like a college foreign exchange student,
Well, it
but if
dep-
you get like a high school.
It depends on if you're considering independent living facilities or if it's just part of the house. And
There's gray areas.
it's so, I can't,
A lot of gray.
it's one of those,
Yeah, because there's also houses that have two kitchens. They have the dirty kitchen is what it's called, where you actually cook, and then the fancy kitchen where people
Show
think you
kitchen.
cooked, but you really didn't cook.
Yeah.
You know, but you can cook.
well, and we have, like I said, we have it on the lake where people have a kitchen on the main floor and then they have a smaller kitchenette on the ground floor for entertaining when the lake is on. So
Crazy.
it's something, and those issues have
I
come
want
up.
two kitchens, but I want a dirty kitchen so people can't see where I cook.
And we have, we,
All that into butler's pantry where
Yeah.
your butler's supposed to go and make your
Yeah.
meal.
we,
Unseen.
we have worked through those types of issues since we've allowed ADUs. That's always been an issue, this, whether you have two kitchens or whether you have an ADU. We have worked through those issues, and I'm not concerned that we can't. We'll continue to work through those issues on a case-by-case basis. It's really gonna be the more of people building people seeing three houses built on the same property.
Right, so we have, in our HOA, we've approved two ADUs where they're separate buildings built for a mother-in-law, right? So they're separate living facilities.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure both of those probably share a water meter, a gas,
Probably.
right?
If they're built under our code, they can share all their meters. Going forward,
They'll have to have separate.
we would propose they have separate meters, only because I can't control when someone decides to condominiumize them.
Okay.
And as I told Councilmember Fullerton, we're talking about what our code requires. I don't know what HOAs require. I don't look into what HOAs require. I'm not the enforcement agent for HOAs. And as I think I've explained to your HOA a couple of times, even if it's a violation,
What's that?
You have a crazy HOA.
I do.
even if it's a violation, even if it's a violation of the HOA, we will still issue the permit because we're not the enforcement agent for the HOA. That is a civil
And how are
matter.
you to know their regulations and code?
That's a civil matter between the HOA, because we get them calling us, you can't issue this permit, it's a violation of our HOA. And I'm like, no, we're not your enforcement agent, we'll still issue the permit. That's between you and the the property owner.
Right, right. And so because of that, in our HOA, they're very active at making sure people are not subdividing property. Right? And so that's the big deal. So whenever anything starts getting built, they're like, no, stop it, writing letters to it, stuff.
Now
And
it's
they
gonna have
let
to be
Bonney Lake know.
Subdivided pretty much.
Now they'll let
You're
Bonney
gonna
Lake know.
have to do a separate meter and all.
Yeah, it's just 3 meters out of the property line and they run into structure separately.
Well, you're gonna have three sewers, you're gonna have three.
3 water meters, 3
water
sewers.
meters. But I guess like if you're building an ADU
There's no
separate, you're gonna have to put sewer
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah,
So
but
you
you have
gotta
3
get
sewer
permits
connections
for
versus.
that.
Would you?
Yeah.
So if they're at the.
If it's
bottom,
condominiumized so that you can, if it's condominiumized so that you can do
No,
separate ones, then it has to have,
One off,
yeah,
can't shut them all off, you know?
yeah.
We have to think of them the fact that they can be sold to 3 different people that are wholly unrelated to each other.
Do you shut sewer off?
Well, it'd be more,
Water, you shut water off.
it would be more of the way, because if there's a problem with that side sewer, you don't want homeowner A destroying the side sewer from homeowner B. Right, because then you're into lots of weird issues. So there might be issues where you can bring a main on for a certain level and then connect to it, but yeah, we'll have to work through it. But they would each have to have their own connection to water, their own connection to sewer, pay the SDCs, pay the PIF, pay the TIF. That's the only way it's gonna make sense. And then
All right, I think this one's probably gonna have to go to full council.
yeah, and then there's 3 other things. We are gonna be doing some updates to the construction codes. We're already using the 2021 building codes. This more has to deal with updating section numbers, cross references, clarifying exemptions, not substantively changing the requirements, just making them clear. Because right now, when we did our last update, we amended section X in the administrative provision, and now that the number of that administrative provision changed, so we're not in alignment, so it's just changing numbers. It's more of a housekeeping issue. And making sure we're referencing the right appendices, because they changed appendix numbers. So it's a housekeeping measure. The other one, development review regulation maintenance, is something we do every year. And it's just, as things come up, council wants us to look at things. And then the last one is the identifying a portion of Midtown as a countywide growth center. This has been on there for a couple years.
What is a countywide growth center?
So it's an area of the city where we're identifying to take the bulk of our population growth,
Okay.
which we've already really done with Midtown by getting it through the countywide designation process. When we go and apply for grants, we're able to get more grants, more points if the project is within a countywide growth center. Downtown is a countywide growth center. Because downtown has been identified as an area that we want to take the majority of our population growth. Downtown and Midtown.
When is the projected completion date for the comprehensive plan, this final pieces?
We're hoping, June-ish, July-ish of this year.
It was supposed to be done December 31st.
Yeah, and
We're 6 months out, then we know when to, we've got 6 months where the rest of this is gonna roll out and just.
yeah, we had the perfect storm of consultant failures, consultants quitting, having to fire consultants, staff changeover. Ryan decided to become not the director anymore, so I had to become the director, so I had to stop working on it. So it just ran into the buzzsaw of
That's right,
unfortunate.
You're not working this anymore. You just
Lauren,
get-
Lauren's working it. I'm still involved in providing guidance because I understand where we need to go. But I'm not working it day to day as much as I
So is
used to
she
be.
gonna
And you're
start
happy about that, aren't you?
As you think?
Sometimes, I'm here, I can handle it,
Yeah.
trying to keep those. Ryan drugged me along a lot of times because he didn't want to handle the planning stuff, but I can handle a lot of,
Long enough.
that I can handle the planning stuff, so. She does planning commission and I take the council side, so kind of divide and conquer those night meetings. But I'm still involved to make sure that it's consistent with council guidance and council direction. I'm just not the one that's doing the day-to-day typing and all that kind of stuff. That's now Lauren.
So the comprehensive plan is like a 5-year cycle or 10?
Yeah.
10-year cycle.
With a 5-year check-in now.
Yeah, the 5-year check-in.
When it was supposed to be submitted.
It's supposed to be completed by December 31st of 2024.
Okay.
And we are not the only city that,
And it's fine if it's late, it's not like we're accruing fines,
No.
not having it done.
and we're in contact with Department of Commerce and Puget Sound Regional Council.
And then from the time it's submitted, that's when our 10-year timeline kicks in?
No, it's from December 31st of June
Of 24.
of 24.
Till 34.
Yeah, so our next update will be required June 30th of 2035. Be my last one. Then you're on your own. I only got one more comp plan left in me. 2035 one, and then I'll be moving on to greener pastures. I won't be here in 45.
All right, so we're going to put this on full council most likely.
Mhm.
Oh, the work plan?
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't really, you can, but it really doesn't.
Not changing anything.
It doesn't-
Everything we just talked about is in the comprehensive plan, not necessarily.
Yeah, those are all ordinances and resolutions that will follow on. The work plan just identifies the things that they're working on. So
so should we just put it on? Because eventually it's gonna be at a workshop, I'm sure.
all the individual items will go through CDC, workshop, council.
I'm fine.
Okay,
This is just identifying the things that they want to do. Or the things that they're working on.
You know, there's an executive order about the construction code update, right?
Yeah. And that has to do, I think, around the natural gas issue.
Yeah, it definitely had one natural gas, but it also has with the, I was happy because it was like encouraging single family homes, right? Making the cost of single family home construction cheaper. I'll go try to find
All
that.
of a sudden, all the single family homes are gonna become 3 condo units per parcel.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be all condos. Woo!
Yeah.
ramming people in, don't care if you have parking.
There's certain things that.
If you don't think, like,
No,
now it's not a big deal,
Bonney.
but 30 years,
Oh.
we have that many more people and no parking and people are parking on the streets, like, that's what I think about.
No, and I have to double check. I want to say there was, at least in one of the bills, and I don't know if it was the one that was finally adopted, there was a provision that you couldn't require parking, but it also might have been if you're within a certain mile of transit too. So I have to look into that one a little bit more.
And then you have to think, your neighbor making live sells their cows, and then the person buys the house, and then they put 3 units, now you're not dealing with one neighbor, now you're dealing with 3 neighbors, and none of them have trash service, so you're constantly calling them.
Or just one doesn't have chat service, right? Not,
Yeah.
maybe 2 out of 3 do, but how do you do that?
Each one have to have their own dumpster,
Yeah.
no trash service, because they would each have their own
Yes.
individual address. I know this is not, trust me, I knew this one was not gonna be
Popular
yes, exactly, that's the,
conversation.
and that's why we put the little disclaimer, like, we don't really have a choice.
We don't have a choice that we have to allow 2 ADUs.
So are we, having any open discussion? We adjourned.
I don't have anything.
We will call this meeting adjourned.